top of the morning, and it is a beaut.
And the hope of the Irish as the future champion of the world.
A podcast is kind of like it's like a radio show that's not on the radio.
Welcome to the Barry J. McDonald podcast. The place where dreams get dusted off and acted on. Because life is too short. We're living on a rock that's flying through space, and hey, what the hell else were you going to do with yourself here?
Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very, very welcome to today's podcast episode. So I'll ask that question again. Do you expect to be successful? Now, I think a lot of us are like that iceberg, where the tiny tip at the top is where we are positive, where we have this small dream, where we believe that, yes, 2022 is going to be the year that we are going to make it as a writer or a podcast or a blogger or whatever it is. We feel that, this is going to be our chance. But like those icebergs, the biggest part of the iceberg is under the water, and the biggest part of our mind is probably filled with doubt. It's probably saying to yourself, well, do you really think this is going to work out? This is just going to be another failure in a long list of failures that you've had in the past. Why would anybody listen to you? Why would anybody read your stuff? Why would anybody want to give you any of their money for whatever you do? So right now you probably are doubting yourself. You're probably, you're trying to put a positive spin on where you are right now, but deep down, you're maybe not very positive. And we don't like to ask ourselves that question, we don't like to stop today and say, do I really think I'm going to be successful? Because sometimes asking ourselves that question is scary, because we realise that we don't believe in ourselves, we doubt ourselves, and sometimes the things that could keep us going is maybe somebody on the outside who says, wow, you're a great writer, keep writing, or, I enjoyed your podcast episode, keep recording, or, I loved your video, keep doing it. And sometimes, small wee comments from people they're almost like a little thread that we kind of pull on just to keep pulling ourselves forward, because we just doubt ourselves and we don't believe in ourselves. But when you think about it, if you don't believe you're going to be successful, do you really think you are going to give it 100%? Do you really think you're going to show up as much? Do you really think you're going to put as much effort in? And when you think about it, if you don't show up that much, if you don't put as much effort in, you're going to get those results of not being successful. It's going to be a kind of a meh book, a podcast episode that's not going to inspire anyone. It's going to be a video that people are probably going to turn off after the first couple of seconds, because, they're going to sense that there's no effort put into it. And because there's no effort put into it, you're going to get that result back, which is going to it's almost like a circle that you're at. When you don't believe you're going to be successful, you don't put much effort in, which leads to a certain result, which, when we look at that result, we believe then, well, that just proves I wasn't going to be successful. And we kind of go round and round that way. It's almost like an airplane coming into maybe losing its engine or whatever, and it's coming into land. It's going to crash. It's circling round and round, and it's going down and down and down. And what we need to do is we need to pull back on the stick. We need to pull the nose up. We need to keep ourselves positive that we put more effort in. And when we put more effort in, people start to notice it. We feel good about ourselves. We put a little bit more effort in. We start to believe, well, we could be successful. And we start to climb up, almost circling in the opposite direction, climbing up with every little action or every comment or whatever result we get. We believe we're going to be more successful. Now, life is funny like that. Sometimes, you can't see where you are going to get from where you are over to that ideal life. I suppose you have some dream of what you would like to be right now. Maybe it could be a millionaire. Maybe it's to have a huge following on social media. Maybe it's to have a best-selling book. And from where you are over to that other place, it just seems like you're almost standing on the Grand Canyon. You're on one side and your dream is on the other side. And you're thinking to yourself, how the hell do I get over there? Or how do I get this to come over to me? And it's only, when we try and do these things that we find that if we do get there, it only makes sense when we look backward. Even in my own life, some of the crazy things that happened to me that brought me to where I am. I can look back and I can see, well, I read this book, which, made me mention this person, And because they mentioned this person in this book, I went over to the YouTube channel. I watched their video about the digital product, which made me maybe start this business or whatever. Sometimes we can look back and we can see all these different kind of weird coincidence, or kind of almost like stepping stones that we, came upon, that brought us to where we are. And you're going to find that too, that, where you are right now over to that goal on the other side. It's going to seem like you're never going to get there, that, there's no path, there's no bridge, there's no arrows, there's no airplane, there's no hand glider, there's nothing that'll actually take you over there. And a lot of us, when we're standing on this side, say to ourselves, well, it's never going to happen. We're never going to get there. And because we don't, we just kind of sit down on our side of the canyon and we just dream about being over there, but we never get there. But is life really like that? As I said, we can look at that big canyon and we can see the big gap and say, well, there's no way across. But it's almost like, life is almost like, I'm sure you probably have seen that clip of one of the Indiana Jones films. I think it was the third one, The Last Crusade, with him and Sean Connery, where he had to take this step of faith. He was standing at this kind of an underground cave or whatever it was, and had this chasm, and looking down, all he could see was just blackness. There was no way across, but he was told that he needed to take a step in faith, and he found that when he did actually step off, expecting he was going to fall to his death, that there actually was a kind of narrow pathway across. But because it was done so much like the wall on the other side, he couldn't actually see it there, so he didn't think it actually existed, and he didn't realize it was there until he put his foot down. And we need to be like that. We need to sometimes step out into the darkness. I think Martin Luther King said one time that, you're probably not going to see the whole staircase. You're just going to see the next step. And you need to take that next step. And when you take that next step, when you're there, it only takes another step, another kind of reaching out into the darkness, putting your foot forward and hoping that there's something there for you to put your foot on. But it's scary sometimes because, as I said, it's only when we get to that point that we can look back and say, aha, this happened, and because that happened, and because she said this, or because I read that book, and because he made this video, that's where I am. But going from where you are right now, stepping into the darkness, is scary sometimes, and especially when you don't know your way. And sometimes, when we're stepping into that darkness, we believe that, that it's just us on our own. But sometimes we forget that life is actually there for us, even though we don't see it. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on God or whatever. We're not going to get into one of those debates. But I think life has a subtle way of showing you that it is there. And again, I don't know what your thoughts are, if you are an atheist or if you're a believer or whatever, but I like to believe that I'm not the smartest person in the room. And no matter how smart I get, I know that there is something a lot smarter than me out there, because when I look around me, look at all the animals, creation, all the different things around me, I say to myself, well, somebody a lot cleverer than me put all this stuff together, so there must be something out there. But as I said, life sometimes has a way of showing you that it is there, because we always get questions, and when we get a question and we look for an answer, there's always an answer to a question. But when we get to that answer, we usually find that there's another question on the other side that we need to ask, which leads to another answer. So, if there was nothing out there, we would just be left with questions and we'd never have answers. And again, too, you'll find as well in life, when it comes to every action we take, there's a reaction. And on the other side of that reaction, there's probably another action. So, during your day to day, I'm sure if you are going to take an action, it's going to have a reaction. Even doing something simple as, letting someone merge into the traffic in front of you. Giving them a flash of the lights, waving them on and telling them that they can pull out in front of you. Do you ever notice sometimes that when you do that, when you watch that car in front of you, they could go maybe 100 yards down the road and suddenly you see they will flash their lights and they let somebody else in. So like your action had a reaction which caused that other person to take an action which also led to another reaction. And again, I think that, if there wasn't anything big out there, anybody keeping an eye on us or somebody at the controls, we could be taking actions that would never have reactions. So the fact that there is a reaction, or that there is some way that life is paying us back, well, I think that is a sign that, even though we believe we're stepping into the darkness, that, there is something there. Sometimes we believe that we're almost on a tennis court. We can't see the far side of the net. There's a mist or whatever, or the lights are turned down, and we feel that we are here with our tennis racket just whacking the balls across the net, and that we're just kind of shooting them off and nothing's happening. But you'll find that that there is something there on the other side. There is something who is replying to us, sometimes replying to our prayers, sometimes replying to the questions that we have, sometimes giving us ideas, sometimes giving us motivation. Sometimes maybe when you're at your lowest moment, you find maybe a little bit of courage that you had, or you'll hear a song, a line in a song or something that just speaks to you and lifts you from where you are. So if I was to say maybe that, if you are a little bit scared right now, if you have a little bit of fear, if you are doubting yourself, if you think that you are never going to be successful, I think that you need to be aware that, even though you might feel that you're stepping into the darkness, that there is something out there, because we've already been using it. And sometimes when we go off and to create an online business, we think that life's different, or that it's something else is going to take care of us now. But this power is always around us. It's part of our life every day. So why should we think that it should help us out in what we're doing right now? If we're trying to make our lives better, maybe our family lives better, or maybe people, readers, viewers, podcast listeners, if we're trying to make their lives better, I'm sure that life is going to hit that racquetball and hit that tennis ball back in your direction again. It's going to thank you for doing that, and it's going to give you another result. You do the action, and life is going to give you a result back. It's going to take an action in your direction. So you're not only kind of shooting those tennis balls in the one direction all the time. By the actions that you're taking right now, something's going to happen on the other side. Something is going to reply to you. Something's going to give you a result. Now sometimes it could be a small result, but at least it's a result. So it does give you a little bit of confidence that, something, maybe there is something there. Maybe I can be successful. Maybe I can be this writer or podcaster or blogger or whatever it is. So I'll ask that question again. Do you think you're going to be successful? If you're not, maybe we need to work on that, because, as I said, you can't really expect to be successful if you don't believe you're going to be successful. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Want to know 3 ways you can transform your online business? Head now to writecom.com and pick up a free copy of the Online Business Manifesto. You'll be glad you did. Have a great day and come back soon.